Hey there friends, Dave Paulides, Canadian Missing Project, copyrighted edition for our video channel. And this is a missing person segment, so thanks for being here. And I've got a fascinating cluster to talk to you about in the state of Washington today. And got some interesting things to talk to you about the movie. Now hopefully, the majority of you, the vast majority, have watched this. Because if you're here, and you're watching the videos, it doesn't make sense that you don't watch this. You'll have a huge insight into what I'm going to talk to you about today at multiple levels. But for the people who haven't watched, this won't be as interesting as to the people who have watched. So what I'm going to do is I pulled some reviews that were online of the movie. And I want you to really understand what I'm up against. Because I've talked to you about Wikipedia before. And many of you understand it's a complete sham review of me. I mean, whoever wrote it knows I don't make or do any of those things that they've said. So anyhow, go read the Wikipedia. And then some of you say, well, Dave, why would you be upset? I've lost a lot of jobs because of that. And a lot of people go to Wikipedia, and some of them are really smart people and they don't know. So here's the first review I want to read for you. I've been interested in the missing 411 phenomena for years. The Hunted is the best movie, and this has to be the worst. It actually has me questioning if the earlier matter is not heavily exaggerated. He makes several wild claims and does nothing to back it up. His investigation technique is awful and pushes theories on people he is interviewing. It's obvious he leaves out parts of the storyline. The movie has me totally questioning the rest of his material. What theories did I put forth in that movie? He makes several wild claims. I did? And this is the worst movie? In addition, the production quality is poor. Interviews are dark and not properly lit. The production quality is poor? Wow. Next review. The movie is good for those who have... You got to listen to this one now. The movie is good for those who have no belief or power to think critically because it is undeniable proof of the unexplained. As one who has seen many UFOs, this movie casts the wrong idea on them. I have seen them and believe they come in peace. I see in these movies an agenda being spelled out by enlists to make extra-dimensional beings seem evil when in fact we as people are doing far more damage to our species than they've ever done. Fascinating. Because I've read hundreds of reports from abductees who claim they are probed at all orifices, that they are forcibly impregnated. So where is this person living? And am I the bad person because I give you reports of what people say and back it up reports from our government agencies that UFOs were in those areas? I guess I am the bad person. The documentary, this is the next one. The documentary needs improvement. It drags on and never really ties anything together. I got to read that one again. The documentary needs improvement. It drags on and never really ties anything together. Well, in one part of the movie, Dave P. talks about the disappearance. So she's saying, or this person's saying, that I don't tie anything together. Well, let me think. Remember the first person who disappeared in British Columbia? They were a hunter. They were German. They disappeared without a scent trail. They were near water. And there were UFO reports from the area. And isn't that exactly what tied in the hunters in the other states? I guess that's not enough. Next review. These are all 1-star reviews. Same boring storyline from all of his previous shows. Really? Now, I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer. But can I tell you that we didn't use the same storyline? Did this person even watch the movie? I am a little astonished. Now, I always save the best till the last. This is the next 1-star review. I was looking forward to this documentary, but after watching it was very disappointed. There were small moments that captured my attention, but nothing tied all of the stories together. All hunters, all German, none found. Canines couldn't pick up a scent. Need I go on and on? Are these people paying attention? Or, let me go on this one. Events would be discussed, but nothing outside of what was really been mentioned for many years already. I was hoping this would be very different, and it wasn't. It was just more strange disappearance cases, but disappearances that were very unique and different from anything else. Nonetheless, I watched it with my mother, and we thought it was actually boring for most of the film. I'm still a big fan of Dave's work and admiration he has trying to at least solve one of the biggest mysteries of mankind. I think this one just missed the mark and seemed rushed and repetitive. Rushed and repetitive. Do you have the same issues with these reviews as I do? Because they don't make any sense to me. And I've had other friends read them and they said the same thing. It's Dave. It's like they didn't even watch the movie, or it was designed to convince others not to watch it. It was a slam review. And just so you know, one-star review on Amazon destroys 5-star reviews on Amazon. It essentially drags them all down to 3 and 4s, which is why I ask for as many reviews as possible, because I know that I'm going to get some of these from haters and people who truly don't understand my work, or people that criticize critical thinkers. Really? Now, I know many of you say, well, Dave, don't even pay attention to those. Well, if I don't pay attention to what these people are trying to do to me, then I'm an idiot. Because it's a concerted effort, folks. I mean, Wikipedia is one of the biggest sites in the United States. And I know it's a sham site, but a lot of people still think it's credible. And Wikipedia, as many of you have tried to get my review changed there, impossible. They've called me all kinds of things there. Conspiracy theorist. I'm more involved in trying to prove the existence of Bigfoot than anything else, which is a complete lie. I haven't worked on anything in Bigfoot for years. It's all missing people. The amount of time I've spent on missing people compared to Bigfoot is 5 to 1, 6 to 1. Very frustrating. I actually get mad about it, which maybe is what they want me to do. So, I just want to keep you up to date of what our enemies are doing. Okay, first letter, Dave. As you can see my name, if you wish, I have nothing to hide and be ashamed of, and I am too damn old to be worried about what some non-believers may have on their petty minds. Now, just a little about myself. I'm a Native American of German heritage. precisely Cherokee and Choctaw, with a small amount of Irish, Scottish, and Bohemian thrown into that German mix. I'd always had a love for the outdoors, whether it be camping, hunting, fishing, or hiking. That is until this damn creature took it all away from me. I excelled in the Boy Scouts of America, football, baseball, and track. I worked as an oil field well service operator in the Texas oil field for 25 years, then went to work for the U.S. Postal Service and retired in 2017. In 1974, the day that I found out that there were giant creatures known as Bigfoot, my encounter happened. I was 21 years old. For 78 years, I've kept this encounter to myself, and I'm still dealing with it. I needed some downtime away from my oil field job, so I planned a vacation to Beavers Bend State Park in southeast Oklahoma during the first week of March of '74. My pregnant wife of 6 months and I had planned a tent camp on the Mountain Fork River below the dam on Broken Bow Lake for 4 days. I rented the farthest south tent site, which was only about 40 yards from a cement dam on the river. This made the upper portion deeper for swimming, better kayaking, and fishing. We had just beautiful weather with lows in the low to high 50s and highs 65 to 70. The first 2 days were terrific. We had fresh fish for breakfast, dinner, and both days. On the morning of the third day, I got up at 5 a.m., made a pot of coffee. I had 2 cups and then grabbed my tackle box, rod and reel, and a 5-gallon bucket to put my catch in. Then I walked down to the cement dam where I had fished the previous 2 days. This morning there was about an 8-mile-per-hour breeze blowing in my face from the southeast. The sun was just starting to rise when I made my first cast using an inline single spinner. After fishing for about 25 minutes, I had a 3-pound smallmouth bass on and 2 rainbow trout. I planned on catching 1 more fish and then call it quits. As I made my next cast, the lure hung up behind me on what I thought was a tree limb. So I turned looking up to see where my lure had caught the limb. But all I could see was a small wall of cinnamon brown hair about 5 feet from me. The lure had hung up in the lower left chest of something that I didn't know existed. It was 11 feet tall, 5 feet wide across the shoulders, and somewhere between 1,100 and 1,200 pounds. Its biceps were as big as my waist, and I had a 32-inch waist. My eyes moved up to its face. It had a conical-shaped head. The eyes were as big as a Coke can and red. It was looking down at me and snarling. Its teeth were twice as big as horses' teeth and only slightly pronounced eye teeth. And his head looked to be the size of a 5-gallon bucket. I could not move. I could hear and feel a very low growl that seemed to rattle my bones with a pressure all over my body that I can't explain. Dave, at this moment, I truly believed that my life was over. I couldn't speak or scream, but I remember thinking, oh my God, I'm so sorry for hurting you. Then, like turning off a light switch, everything went black. I passed out. I believe that was at about 6:30 a.m. When I woke up. My watch read 7 a.m. I felt like I had been drained of all my energy, and I had a terrible headache. I sat up shaking uncontrollably, looking around, and I saw that my tackle box had been smashed flat. My rod was broken into 4 pieces, and the 3 fish that I had caught were taken out of the 5-gallon bucket. After beginning some of my composure back, I saw 2 footprints where that damn thing had been standing. I had a measuring tape, so I measured both prints. They were 22.5 inches long, 10 across. I'd never seen a footprint so huge. I was still shaking uncontrollably, and I had to just get the hell away from there. So I picked up all of my crushed and broken fishing equipment and I carried it to a trash bin where I disposed of it. I walked back to camp, poured myself another cup of coffee, and waited for my wife to get up. After she exited the tent, I poured her a cup of coffee, and she asked, how was the fishing this morning? I explained to her that during the night, someone had came into camp and had stolen all my fishing gear. Man, she was pissed. But that was a lot better than me trying to explain to her what I'd actually seen and what had transpired down at the river. At this point, I was feeling so very lucky to be breathing and alive. I had 1 more cup of coffee and then told my wife that I wasn't feeling quite up to par and that I just wanted to go home. You know, I can't help but believe that damn creature had been watching me catch fish and just wanted my damn fish. To this day, I still can't believe how that SOB snuck up behind me. Since that day, I've given away my fishing gear. and only within the last couple of years have I had an interest in finding out more about what it was that took my love of the outdoors away. You know, back then I didn't know about PTSD, but I'm pretty sure that's what I have been experiencing. Then came the night terrors. At least once and sometimes twice a night, my screaming, kicking, and punching would wake everyone and everything in the house. That creature would be creeping up on me from behind while in a super crawl position, and then I would turn and see him. At that point, he would bounce to his feet, grab me by the shoulders, and pick me up to where, looking eye to eye. I had these night terrors every night or every other night for about a year. After that, they became more sporadic for the next 47 years. Now it seems to only happen about once a month. Thank God. Wow. Now, I actually have heard that story before from a friend of mine who actually did a drawing on what this person saw. Couple things. His description of passing out. What could have caused that? People just don't pass out. It's very, very, very rare. It's like something took over him. But it allowed him to have a memory of what was going on, which is even more unusual. Now, could he have repressed memory? Possibly. But maybe he doesn't want to find out. Next email. Hey Dave, I hope this email finds you well. I worked with an artist over a year ago to document my sighting happened in, that was the other one. My sighting happened in Cambria County, Pennsylvania, specifically Ellensburg. It's along the Chestnut Ride in Pennsylvania, which is very not far from the infamous Kecksburg UFO incident. I was about 10 years old. It was around 97. I was taking piano lessons when I exited the house of my piano teacher. My mom still chatting away, talking inside as I waited. My mom and the piano teacher were co-workers, so I just stood outside waiting while they chatted. It was dark by that time. I'm guessing at least 9 p.m. I looked up and my field of view was a giant triangular-shaped UFO directly above my head. It hovered mostly silent. If anything, I remember a pulsating humming noise. On each point of the triangle, there was a red light. There's a light at each point of that triangle. The lights never changed. They continually were lit and no flickering. It moved so slow, maybe 5 or 10 miles an hour. My viewpoint was looking directly up at the craft. It was only maybe 100 feet off the ground, not far from the tops of the trees, just like we described in the movie. If I had a baseball, I think I could have hit it. It was at least the size of a house. The undersurface of the craft was irregular and not smooth. Like there were shafts running on the undersurface. The metallic finish was matte black, but a hue of red light was cast from the undersurface. In the middle, I recall a center circle that looked like it could have had the area of an opening. I was stunned. I was familiar with UFOs from watching the X-Files, but my mind couldn't put it into a box. I remember looking back at my mom, still engrossed in conversation. I could not say a word. I looked back up toward the sky, and the craft slowly drifted off to my right side. Due to my vantage point, and by the time it went only a short distance over the other houses, I quickly lost sight of it. The encounter lasted only a few seconds. I'll always remember this and think about it all the time. I can't wait till we get some real disclosure, and maybe we can find out the truth about these flying triangles. Yeah. Well, there's a lot of rumors going on about the triangles. One of them is that craft matches a test craft that the U.S. supposedly has. And some people said, well, that blows your whole theory to garbage. I don't have any theories. I just tell you what happened. And I'm not here saying that what happened to these people wasn't even done by our own government. Who knows? I don't know. And our government has done a lot of bad things to people over the years, so who knows? Hey Dave, a few things that came to mind when I viewed your Christmas Day video. You must have heard the classic art bell caller who once called in and who sounded genuinely petrified, saying that he works at Area 51, and he said there are not ETs but dimensional beings and they are coming. If he was acting and was a hoaxer who called in, he deserves an award for his performance. The call went dead pretty after he started saying his bit. There's a theory that the CERN project has nothing to do with splitting the atom. That's the cover story, but it really to bring in dimensional beings here in mass and not good ones. Who knows, but when you see how big the project is, I would not be surprised at all. We already have evidence here now that dimensional beings exist. That's what ghosts, shadow beings, and maybe even demonic beings are. They are caught in the middle somehow of the dimensions, and we see them briefly under certain conditions or when these conditions are met. When people say they're caught in the middle, in talking to a lot of the experts, I don't know if they are caught in the middle. It's hard to say. Because wherever they are, living in another time and space and location, what if it happens just like us? What if we just happen to walk into that portal unknowing? What if they're an animal and they just run into the portal and they end up back here on Earth? At Skinwalker Ranch, part of the NABS team that belonged to Bigelow talked about seeing a creature that somewhat resembled a dinosaur. Well, if that was the case, where did that come from? Not here on Earth, not in Utah. So it had to cross over somewhere, right? And if you have credible people saying it's here, then it's here. So, next one is the same email, number 4. One thing that has always struck me is when I took a course in neurobiology at McGill University, is that we learned that there could be things that are around us that we cannot see. This was proven by a breakdown of a frog's eye and how it processes visual information with cell assemblies that work in sequence to catch a fly. It clearly demonstrated how there are things a frog is not capable of seeing, and because of this, do not exist for a frog. Since our neurons work basically the same way, it could apply to us too. It's pretty fascinating. Pretty fascinating stuff. The more you learn and know about our world, the more and more complex it becomes. The question is, were we meant to find out what those are? Other people will remember, we've talked about this, have said that maybe we're playing under some kind of game scenario and we're the pawns in the game. And let's say you could buy me, and my brain and my physical ability is worth $100, and somebody else, say a physicist on Skinwalker Ranch, they're worth $500, and somebody who's a laborer may be worth $20. And then you get your team together and you watch it as things are playing out. Pretty interesting theory, a pretty scary theory, and some people I know that are really, really way smarter than me think it's true. I don't know. So there's 62 clusters of missing people in North America. That's Canada and the US. Alaska has a big cluster of missing. And we have clusters all along the Canadian border in Canada, all around the Great Lakes. And then there's that stretch north to south, kind of going through North and South Dakota and down through the middle of the US going south, where we talk about in the movie. And a lot of you have said, oh, Dave, what about that, the cave map and your map? No, not even close. Somebody is online using our map and violating our copyright and putting it on another map, and we explain what that area is in the middle of the US, and I think we explain it pretty well, thanks to somebody from the government that called in and made us aware of it. So the next 3 missing persons cases I'm going to tell you about, if you're one of the people that filed one of the reviews I read today, you're not going to get what I'm going to talk about. Just tell you, you won't get it. Now, do I think all of you will get it? Oh yeah. Because you're going to see the similarities here. You're going to see why I put these 3 together. So the first case happened November 1st, 1946 in Goose Prairie, Washington. It's an area just east of Mount Rainier National Park. About 10 miles east, not very far. A man named Joe Blackburn, 34 years old. Now, he was a forest guide that had a ranch, and he had almost 400 acres. And he was a man known for hunting and trapping and outfitting. And he was considered by the people in that area as the most well-knowledged, well-equipped outdoorsman in that area. He knew his property, and he knew that region of Washington like we know our backyard. Well, on October 31st, a hunter named Blake Lowry was due back into Joe Blackburn's ranch to drop off a horse he had run to hunt elk. Well, Joe had told Lowry to hunt a specific place on the property, and then Lowry needed a horse, so Joe rented him one. Now, when Joe realized that Lowry wasn't back, he got a warm coffee from his wife, kissed his 5-year-old baby goodbye, didn't take any food, thought he'd be back in a couple hours, and took off looking for Lowry. Well, Joe didn't return that night, and the next morning his wife called the sheriff and the Natchez County Ranger District. Now, the wife was debriefed, and she said she knew where Joe told Lowry to hunt. It was just west of the home in some thick woods. So right away, the sheriff, search and rescue, they all get together and they divvy up the property. And they hunt for 2 days. They don't find anything. Then on November 3rd, 2 days after Joe disappeared, a really strange thing happened. Joe's horse wandered back into the ranch. It was bareback and seemed to have a sore leg or foot. Strange. Everybody knew Joe Blackburn as an expert horseman whose horses were very well mannered and trained, and they couldn't believe something would happen. The next day, November 4th, searchers found they backtracked off the horse's footprints, and they found Joe's saddle on the ground along with a bridle and some other items. And then there were tracks in the area, but they were blurred out by wind and snow. That was on November 4th. November 6th, they searched the entire day, and they tried to find any tracks coming back to the house. And the only thing they found were Joe's horse's tracks. And on the 6th, they terminated the search. And on that same day, late in the afternoon, the hunter, Lowry, that got lost, wandered back into the ranch, alive. Now remember, Joe knew his property blindfolded. He could find his way around. And the wife knew exactly where he would go, a specific part of that 320 to 400 acres. But Joe was never found, ever. And there was never any debriefing in the newspaper about Lowry. So what happened to Lowry? He was missing for 6-7 days. For him to survive is a miracle. But he did. Well, I would love to interview him, but obviously two major things happened to two players in this story in that same Goose Prairie area. Now, Goose Prairie is right near another location called Bumping Lake, just a few miles apart. And this next story involves a man named Walter Robinson, 28 years old, missing November 13th, 1965. 19 years after Joe Blackburn disappeared. Same area. Huge number of missing in this region because of Mount Rainier. This is all in a cluster zone. Now, some articles stated that Walter, 28 years old, was lost near Goose Lake. Some said Goose Prairie. Suffices to say it was about the same distance from the park as Blackburn. Same probably exact area. Well, on November 12th, Walter left his home and he drove to meet friends and elk hunt. Now, Walter had 4 kids from his current marriage and 2 from a previous marriage. So he had 6 kids. So the next day, his group of hunters wake up and they go out to hunt. And heavy snow inundated that area they were hunting in. Well, Walter was called Wags, and Wags never made it back to camp. So that night, his buddies called the sheriff's office. Now, the greatest sheriff's name in the history of sheriffs is in this article. Yakima County Sheriff Bert Guns. What a name, man. I read that and I go, wow. Well, he was the organizer of the search and rescue. And 150 soldiers from Fort Lewis responded. And 75 Explorer Scouts and their leadership responded. It was a massive effort to find Wags. On November 23rd, very cold weather and more snow hampered searchers and they terminated the search. 30 days after disappearing, his wife filed in court for a death notice for her husband so she could get benefits for the kids that she had to feed. The motion was granted by Superior Court, meaning that it was determined that Wags was deceased and he was no longer missing. And he won't be on any missing logs. And that's the way the system works. But a SAR member, search and rescue member, who searched made this statement years later when he was interviewed by the search, about the search. That's what he stated. It was as if he had disappeared off the face of the earth. Because that's how, and then he said, and that's how thorough the search was. He was an elk hunter, point of separation when he left camp, and he disappeared from other members when they were in the woods. Weather was a factor, and there's a missing cluster in the area. So, we have Joe Blackburn, and we have Wags Robinson, missing from the same area 19 years apart. So, this is Mount Rainier National Park right here. It's Blackburn and Robinson in an area just east of Mount Rainier. And this area is famous for elk hunting, real rough, big mountains. Rainier, just about 10 miles to the base of Rainier from where these two guys disappeared, and the Bumping Lake and Goose Prairie are real close to each other. Now remember, that was a national park. Rainier, big cluster missing. So Blackburn's not found, ever. Robinson not found, ever. Now, Robinson went missing on November 13th, 1965. Blackburn, November 1st, 1946. The next case, November 18th, 1965, or 5 days after Walter Robinson disappeared. Just 5 days after Walter disappears, the next case happens. Man's name is Leonard Vacknitz, 43 years old. He lived in Bothell, Washington. He was a married father of 6. Very interesting. The man who disappeared days earlier was a married father of 6. Coincidence? Remember the profile in the movie. And Leonard was elk hunting right on the fringe of, drumroll, Olympic National Park. Olympic, another cluster of missing people. He was on the north side near a place called Solduck, S-O-L space D-U-C. So Leonard, on the 18th, well, first this, on November 17th, he left for the Solduck area from his home in Bothell, and he took time off from being an inspector at Boeing. Weird connection there. I've written about a handful of people, all from Boeing, that disappeared. Coincidence, I guess. Boeing's a big employer there in Seattle. On the 18th, Leonard and his partner, a guy named Rue Dewey, headed into the woods, and somehow they got separated. You always hear this from me. Somehow they got separated. Well, Rue made it back to camp, and Leonard didn't. And late that night, Rue called the Clallam County Sheriff's Office. Park rangers, Forest Service personnel, all responded. They brought in canines from the Park Service. No scent trail. Civil Air Patrol flew the skies, and Boeing personnel took time off and came to search. Search and rescue people said that they were baffled because Rue knew exactly where Leonard was last seen, and he walked him into that area, and they couldn't find anything. And that's where the search was focused, about 3 miles from their camp. So, a couple things to remember. Leonard, elk hunter, point of separation, water around the area where he disappeared, cluster zone. Now, Leonard and Wags Robinson, both white males, 28 and 43 years old, hunting elk, both fathers of 6 kids, both missing within 5 days of each other, both disappeared on the fringe of a national park, both in cluster zones, missing 5 days apart. Blackburn missing in the same area as Robinson, 19 years apart. Now, in Vaknitz's, Leonard's case, a family organized more searches. And in August of 66, about 9 months after he disappeared, searching again the same area that was searched 4 or 5 times, guess what they found? Leonard's body. How many times does this happen? It's amazing. They didn't say what he was wearing. They didn't say anything about him other than he was found. That was it. But I do find it extremely unlikely that both these guys had 6 kids. I mean, that's really weird. And coupled with the other items, both elk hunters, both in the state of Washington, and they were hunting 100 miles apart. Here's the key point I want you to get. So, Robinson and Blackburn are hunting on the fringe of Mount Rainier National Park. Now this is the quickest driving route from location to location, but straight air miles, it's 100 air miles, where Vacknitz disappeared at Solduck. And that was in Olympic National Park. All of this area in orange over here, Straits of the Juan de Fuca is right here. All missing people, missing people, missing people. And water everywhere. Washington is a very strange place because it has a lot of water, a lot of wild areas, rains a lot there. Now in the Hoopa Project, one thing I made the association to was the amount of precipitation in Hoopa in correlation to the sightings. Washington gets a lot of precipitation, and that Olympic Peninsula sits right on a point of nothing but water in the ocean. I don't want to scare anybody, but I also want to make people aware that what I just told you is all true. I didn't come up with any theory. I'm correlating facts. Now, I really encourage you to watch this. Right now, I don't think it costs hardly anything to rent it, so you can rent it and watch it. I think you get a couple days, 3 days to watch it while you rent it. Amazon, iTunes, Vimeo, you can watch it. And if you want to buy the DVD from me, there's the address for our store. And if you want to freeze frame this and copy it, nabigfootsearch.com, the store. Now this is going to be airing on a day when I'm going to be, and everyone with us is going to be in Denver for that big conference. Starts January 12th. So our store may be closed. Check in a couple days and it'll be reopened. But that conference in Denver is going to be huge. Really huge. Here's why. Because we're going to play this movie in front of an audience, and then we're going to sit down and talk about it and allow the audience to ask questions. It's in a very nice city called Golden, Colorado. And a lot of cool places to stay, a lot of really good eateries there, just a nice downtown area. And the location is downtown where we're doing this. Parking's not a problem there. You'll have a good time. I guarantee it almost. So if you can make it, I hope to see you there. Friday night is a meet and greet, and I'm told the meet and greet is sold out, but still tickets available for Thursday night in the showing here. And if you want to go to Sasquatch Outpost, you can get the tickets. Just Google Sasquatch Outpost. And what else can I tell you? I appreciate all of you being here. Mental health has been a big topic as of late, and I'm going to keep banging the drum on that. If you know somebody that's having a mental health issue, or you yourself are, sign up to take a NAMI, N-A-M-I class. You can take them in person or you can take them online. And they're very worthwhile. 100%. I think it's the best class that Angie and I have ever taken. And that's a lot of classes. We learned a lot. The people are very good at their job. And they have a lot of resources that they can hand out to you that could help you at a time of great need. And then lastly, there's a great need right now for homeless shelters, funds and food. So if you want to donate to them, that'd be a really good thing to do. Lastly, I've said before, one of the things that helped me a lot with my mental health issues after losing Ben was we got a dog. And Huck, big white Great Pyrenees, not in here right now, but I would encourage you to go to your local animal shelter. And there's tons of rescue dogs that need a home. And they are great dogs. And I swear to you, a dog knows when they're rescued. It's weird. And they're appreciative. And they're probably the best friend you'll ever have because they won't turn on you. I'm just telling you. So, thanks for being here. Please share this on your social media. Please make sure you're subscribed and watch the movie Missing 411, The UFO Connection. Be safe, be kind to your neighbors, and most of all, be kind to yourself. Paulides out.